The room was silent, except for the low hum of alien machines. A pale blue light filled the chamber, reflecting off metal walls that seemed alive, shifting slightly like breathing skin. On the center table lay a human soldier, unconscious but alive, his chest rising and falling slowly. He had been captured during a battle on a remote colony world, and now he was far from home, surrounded by beings who did not see him as equal. Dr. Vare, the alien physician, stood over him, tall and slender, with 4 arms that moved like liquid. His black eyes reflected no emotion, but his mind was heavy with questions. Humans were supposed to be weak, fragile, limited creatures, yet this one had survived injuries that should have killed him. The doctor activated the scanning machine, a floating orb that hovered above the soldier's chest and released beams of green light. The orb beeped once, then again louder. Strange symbols appeared in the air, written in alien script. Dr. Vare leaned closer, his smooth brow tightening. What he saw made him freeze. Inside the human's body, hidden deep in his cells, was something impossible, something his people had forbidden to even speak of. The doctor's hearts raced. The readings matched an ancient record, a warning from long ago. It spoke of a power that, if awakened in humanity, could change the balance of the galaxy forever. But how could this be? He thought this was just one soldier, a nameless human taken from a battlefield. And yet, the scan did not lie. The soldier stirred, his eyes fluttering open. He looked around, confused, weak but defiant. "Where am I?" he whispered, his voice rough. The doctor stepped back, hiding his unease. "You are safe for now," Dr. Vare replied in his own tongue, though the translation device made it sound flat and cold. The human tried to sit up, but heavy restraints held him down. He struggled, pulling against the bands, and for a moment the machine's readings spiked again. Energy flared from his cells, unseen by him but clear to the doctor's instruments. Dr. Vare quickly adjusted the settings, masking the results before the other aliens could see. He turned to the door, but his mind was in conflict. Should he report this immediately to the commanders, as duty demanded? Or should he hide it, study it himself? He knew what the leaders would do. They would not hesitate. They would dissect the human, destroy him, erase all trace of this forbidden power. And perhaps, the doctor thought, that might be the safer choice. But something in the soldier's eyes stopped him. Even weak and restrained, there was fire in them. Not the fire of anger, but of survival, of will. It was the same fire the old legends spoke about. The fire that frightened the ancient councils so much they chose to bury the truth. The doctor looked at him and whispered softly, "You have no idea what you carry inside you." The soldier did not understand, but he felt the weight in the alien's voice. He closed his eyes, tried to steady his breath. Memories of the battlefield flashed in his mind. His unit destroyed, his friends gone, his last stand before the aliens captured him. He had thought it was the end, yet here he was, alive, though in the hands of the enemy. Dr. Vare moved the scanner away and shut it down. The symbols in the air vanished, but the image burned in his mind. He knew this was the beginning of something dangerous. If even one human carried this secret, then what if there were more? Could humanity truly rise against the galaxy, against empires older than their sun? The thought made him tremble. He walked to a console and typed a false report. He listed the human as ordinary, fragile, nothing of interest. His hands shook as he confirmed the data, sealing his lie. For the first time in his long career, Dr. Vare chose silence over truth. But deep inside, he knew he had crossed a line. There would be no turning back. The human watched him carefully, his mind foggy but aware. He did not know why the alien looked unsettled, but he sensed something hidden. He whispered again, this time with more strength, "What did you find?" The doctor turned, his dark eyes unreadable. "Nothing you need to fear," he said, though his voice carried the weight of secrets that could break worlds. The hum of the machines grew louder, almost as if they too felt the tension. The chamber seemed smaller, the air heavier. Two lives now connected by a discovery that should never have been made. And outside that chamber, the alien ship drifted through the silent void, unaware that within its walls, history was about to change. Dr. Vare did not sleep that cycle. He sat alone in his private chamber, the blue glow of alien screens lighting his pale face. The scans replayed again and again, showing patterns that no ordinary human should possess. His four hands trembled as he scrolled through hidden records sealed for centuries. Long ago, the elders of his species had spoken of a danger, a seed buried inside the human race. It was not technology, it was not weaponry, it was something within their very blood. The records described it as adaptive resonance, a trait that allowed humans to absorb and reshape energy itself. At first, it was dismissed as myth, until rare cases began to surface. Each time, those humans vanished quickly, erased by alien hands before the truth could spread. Vare read the ancient warnings in silence. If this spark spreads, the younger race will rise, and the galaxy will bow to them. The words echoed in his mind, heavy with fear. He thought of the soldier lying in the chamber, restrained, unaware of what lived inside his body. Could this truly be the one the legends feared? Or was it only a cruel trick of biology? The door chimed softly, and a fellow physician entered. "Vare, the commanders request your report," the alien said in a low voice. Vare's heart skipped, but he kept his face calm. "I already filed it. The human is weak. Nothing unusual," he replied. The other physician nodded without suspicion and left. Only when the door closed did Vare release the breath he held. He returned to the screen, zooming in on the human's cellular patterns. They pulsed like a rhythm, almost alive. Each time the soldier struggled, the resonance grew stronger. It was not random. It was building, as if waiting for the right moment. Vare's skin prickled with unease. In the chamber, the human soldier stirred again. His name was Daniel, though the aliens never asked, never cared. He pulled weakly against the restraints, his body aching but his spirit still burning. The machine above him hummed, watching every heartbeat, every breath. Daniel felt like an animal in a cage, but something inside whispered that he was more. Vare entered quietly, his dark robe brushing the floor. Daniel's eyes followed him, sharp and suspicious. "You keep scanning me, why?" he asked, his voice raw. Vare hesitated, then replied coldly, "Because you are unusual." Daniel frowned. "Unusual how?" The doctor looked away, unwilling to answer. He adjusted the machines, lowering their sensitivity, hiding the strange readings. If the commander saw them, Daniel's life would end within hours. But the longer Vare concealed the truth, the deeper he stepped into treason. A voice inside him said this human was dangerous, but another voice whispered he might be necessary. For too long, the galaxy had been ruled by fear. Maybe this spark could ignite change. Daniel watched him in silence, then said softly, "You don't trust your own people, do you?" The word struck Vare like a blade. Humans were perceptive, even without knowing the details. For a moment, the doctor almost answered honestly, but instead he whispered, "Rest. You will need strength." Later, when the chamber lights dimmed, Vare returned to the hidden records. He discovered mentions of experiments, humans taken centuries ago, tested, destroyed. Some had survived long enough to display impossible feats, resistance to toxins, bursts of energy, healing from wounds no being should survive. The council had buried all evidence, but fragments remained. And now, the same signature lived inside Daniel. Vare closed his eyes, hearing the hum of the ship around him. If he kept this secret, he could study it, learn its limits, maybe even guide it. But if he revealed it, Daniel would be erased, and the cycle of fear would continue. He felt trapped between duty and discovery, between fear and hope. In the chamber, Daniel drifted between waking and dreams. Visions came to him, flashes of fire, energy flowing through his veins. He saw himself standing alone against shadows, unbroken, unyielding. When he woke, sweat covered his face, but the fire in his chest was stronger. He did not know it yet, but his body was changing, adapting with every breath. Vare returned in silence, his black eyes watching him. For the first time in years, the doctor felt something dangerous. Hope, he whispered to himself. Perhaps humanity was never weak. Perhaps we only feared what they could become. And with that thought, he sealed his choice. The secret would remain hidden, for now. But secrets never stay buried forever. The alien ship drifted in silence through the void, but inside its walls, tension grew. Daniel lay restrained. Yet every hour his strength seemed to return faster than it should. His wounds closed with unnatural speed. His breath grew steadier, his heartbeat stronger. The machines whispered data that Dr. Vare kept carefully hidden, filing false reports while his mind filled with fear. The commanders began to ask questions. Why is this human still alive? One officer demanded during a briefing. Most captives perish within a day, yet this one resists our serums, resists our machines. Vare bowed low, his voice steady though his heart raced. He is ordinary. His resistance is stubbornness, nothing more. The officer narrowed his eyes, but accepted the explanation. For now. Back in the chamber, Daniel pulled against the restraints again. The metal creaked softly, not enough to break, but enough to show progress. Each time he strained, the same strange pulse rippled through his body, a silent force he could not explain. He did not understand it, but he felt it, like fire waiting under his skin, like lightning hiding in his bones. Vare watched from the shadows. He saw the readings spike, saw the bands quiver under human strength. The legends returned to him again, stories of men and women who once faced impossible odds and adapted beyond reason. The council had silenced those stories, but here one stood before him, alive, breathing, unaware of his own potential. Daniel glared at him, his voice firm despite his weakness. You're hiding something from me. I can see it in your eyes. Vare said nothing, only adjusted the machines again, masking the truth. You fear your own people more than you fear me, Daniel pressed. The alien's jaw tightened, but he still gave no answer. His silence was confirmation enough. The following cycle, soldiers entered the chamber, their armor gleaming, weapons humming. Orders from above. One of them said, "We test the humans' limits today." They released the restraints only halfway, binding Daniel's arms but allowing him to stand. They shoved him into a circular arena within the ship, a space used for training and experiments. Daniel stumbled at first, weak legs shaking, but his eyes burned with defiance. An alien soldier struck him across the chest, sending him crashing against the wall. The watching officers laughed coldly, expecting him to break. But Daniel rose again, blood on his lip, his fists clenched. "Is that all?" he growled, surprising even himself with the strength in his voice. They attacked again, harder this time, but something changed. Each blow Daniel absorbed seemed to wake the fire inside him. His body adjusted, his movements sharper, his stance steadier. Pain did not crush him. It taught him, molded him. By the third strike, he caught the soldier's arm, forcing him back a step. The crowd fell silent. Vare stood at the edge of the arena, his breath shallow. He saw it clearly now, the resonance in Daniel's cells igniting, adapting in real time. This was no ordinary resilience. This was the beginning of something forbidden. The officer turned to Vare, suspicion in his eyes. "You claimed he was weak, yet look at him." Vare forced his voice calm. "It is only adrenaline, nothing more." But even as he said it, he knew the lie grew thinner, harder to protect. The soldiers pressed Daniel harder, but he refused to fall. He was bruised, bleeding, but each time he stood faster, stronger. One final strike sent him sprawling. Yet when he pushed himself up, his eyes burned with a light none of them had seen before. The aliens watching stepped back unconsciously, as if sensing danger. Daniel whispered under his breath, "I won't break. Not now. Not ever." Vare ended the test abruptly, pulling rank as chief physician. He must return to the chamber for further scans, he declared, his tone sharp. The officers hesitated, but allowed it, muttering among themselves. As the soldiers dragged Daniel back, Bear caught his gaze. For the first time, the human saw something in the alien's eyes. Not cruelty, not coldness, but conflict, maybe even protection. Alone again, Ver faced him. "You resist more than any human I have studied," he whispered. Daniel smirked weakly. "Maybe we're tougher than you think." The doctor's hand shook as he adjusted the restraints. He knew the truth. This was no accident, no coincidence. This human was proof that the forbidden power was real. And if the commanders discovered it, both their lives would be erased. Ver turned away, his thoughts spiraling. How long could he protect the secret? How long before suspicion became certainty? Each moment with Daniel pulled him deeper into betrayal, deeper into hope. Perhaps the galaxy's greatest fear was not a myth after all. Perhaps it was waking right before his eyes. The chamber lights dimmed as the ship drifted through endless darkness. Daniel lay on the table once more, his body bruised from the tests, but his spirit unbroken. He stared at the ceiling, every muscle aching. Yet deep inside he felt something stirring. It was like a rhythm, faint but steady, a pulse that was not his heartbeat, but something greater. Dr. Ver stood nearby, his long fingers dancing across the console. He told himself he was only observing, only recording data, yet his eyes betrayed a secret hunger. Each scan showed growth. Each reading confirmed what he feared and yet secretly hoped. The human was changing, his cells absorbing every impact, every wound, and reshaping themselves. It was no longer simple healing. It was adaptation, deliberate and precise. Daniel's eyes flickered open, catching Ver's shadow. "You're still watching me," he said in a low voice. Ver hesitated, then replied, "Because you are becoming something else." Daniel frowned. "Becoming what?" The alien did not answer, for the truth was forbidden even to speak aloud. That night, when the ship entered a region of turbulence, the power inside Daniel surged. The vessel shook violently, alarms blared, and the machines in the chamber sparked with energy. Daniel's restraints tightened automatically, but the pressure only fed the rhythm inside him. He gasped, feeling fire run through his veins, his skin glowing faintly in the darkness. The machines screamed with unreadable symbols, and for a moment every system in the chamber failed. Dr. Ver rushed forward, panic in his eyes. He saw the human writhing, glowing with energy that no being should possess. The resonance had awakened, raw and uncontrolled. The restraints bent under the pressure, metal groaning, until with a final crack they snapped apart. Daniel fell to the floor, gasping, his hands trembling with invisible power. The door burst open, soldiers stormed in, weapons raised. "What is happening?" one shouted, staring at the broken restraints and sparking machines. Ver blocked their path, his voice sharp. "The system's overloaded. Nothing more, leave us." But their eyes narrowed, suspicion spreading like fire. They left reluctantly, but Ver knew the moment was slipping from his control. One more incident like this, and he would not be able to hide the truth. Daniel sat up slowly, his chest heaving. He looked at his hands, shaking, glowing faintly before the light faded. "What's happening to me?" he asked, his voice filled with fear and wonder. Ver knelt beside him, whispering words meant only for him. "You are awakening what my people feared for centuries." Daniel shook his head. "I don't understand." "You don't need to," Ver replied quickly. "Not yet, but know this. You're not weak. You were never weak." For the first time, Daniel felt the alien's voice carry something different, not coldness, not cruelty, but respect. It unsettled him as much as the power within. The following cycle, the commanders demanded a full report. Rumors of broken restraints had reached their ears, and suspicion grew sharper. Ver stood in the council chamber, tall but uneasy. He presented data stripped of truth, showing human biology as ordinary, fragile, forgettable. But whispers spread among the officers, whispers of energy flares and machines failing. Perhaps the human is not so harmless, one murmured. Vare lowered his gaze, hiding the storm in his mind. Back in the private chamber, Daniel sat chained again, though now the chains felt weaker. He remembered the surge, the light, the strange strength that had poured through him. It frightened him, yet at the same time it felt right, as if it had always been inside him, waiting. He clenched his fists, whispering to himself, "If they think I'll break, they're wrong." Vare studied him quietly. He knew the awakening had only begun. Each day, the resonance would grow. Each test would feed it, until Daniel was no longer just a man, but something more. The doctor's loyalty wavered with every breath. To protect this human meant betraying his own kind, yet to destroy him meant silencing the one chance the galaxy might have for change. Late into the cycle, when the corridors outside were silent, Vare whispered to the human, "You must learn to control it, or they will destroy you." Daniel met his gaze, determination burning in his eyes. "Then teach me," he said simply, and for the first time, the alien doctor felt the path ahead shift. The forbidden power had awakened, and the choice to guide it had already been made. The ship's corridors were quiet, but whispers moved faster than light. Stories of the humans spread among the crew, broken restraints, glowing skin, machines that failed in his presence. Most dismissed them as exaggerations, but others began to wonder, what if the human was not just another prisoner? What if he carried something dangerous? Daniel felt the weight of those whispers each time guards entered his chamber. Their eyes lingered longer, their grips tighter, their weapons always ready. The chains that bound him were stronger now, glowing with alien energy designed to suppress movement. Yet when he pulled against them, they trembled faintly, as if they too feared the spark inside him. Dr. Vare worked in silence, torn between his oaths and his conscience. He falsified reports daily, erasing signs of resonance, masking spikes of energy. But deception has limits, and suspicion had already taken root. The commanders summoned him more often, their questions sharper, their patience thinner. "How long until the human is useless?" one asked coldly. "Soon," Vare lied, bowing low, though his hands trembled. That night, Daniel whispered across the dark chamber, "You're hiding something again?" Vare stood at the console, his back to him. "I hide to keep you alive," he said quietly, almost to himself. Daniel clenched his fists. "Then stop hiding and help me. I can feel inside me. It's getting stronger. I need to control it." Vare turned, his eyes shadowed. "If I help you, I betray everything I have sworn. If I don't, they will kill you, and perhaps me as well." Before Daniel could answer, the door hissed open. Two high-ranking officers entered, flanked by armed soldiers. "Dr. Vare," one said, his tone heavy with suspicion, "we will take over the human's care. Your reports lack detail, and your behavior raises questions." Vare bowed stiffly, his black eyes hiding panic. "My lord, I assure you, the human is fragile, near collapse," he replied. The officer's gaze swept the chamber, falling on Daniel's steady eyes and unbroken spirit. "Fragile," he said slowly. "He looks far from fragile." The order came swift. "Prepare him for final study. We will dissect the body and learn what makes him endure." Daniel's heart pounded, his breath sharp. He pulled at the chains, but they held firm. Vare felt his throat tighten. He had known this moment would come, but the reality struck like a blade. When the soldiers moved forward, Daniel's body reacted on its own. The resonance inside him flared, a wave of invisible force rippling outward. The chamber lights flickered, consoles sparked, soldiers staggered back. The chains glowed red-hot and snapped, falling to the floor in broken pieces. For a moment, silence hung heavy, broken only by Daniel's ragged breath. "Seize him!" The commander roared, weapons raised. Daniel darted forward, faster than he had ever moved before. He knocked one soldier to the ground, dodged another strike, his instincts sharper his body alive with energy. It was not perfect, it was wild and untrained, but it was enough. He fought like a man with nothing left to lose, and the aliens felt the storm inside him. Vare acted before fear could paralyze him. He grabbed a device from his belt and slammed it against the wall. A hidden passage opened, narrow and dark, meant for maintenance drones. "Go," he hissed to Daniel, his voice sharp. Daniel froze for a heartbeat, staring at the alien doctor who had saved him more than once. "Why are you helping me?" he demanded. Vare's black eyes burned with something rare. "Because the galaxy is wrong, and maybe you are the proof." The soldiers charged again, but Daniel leapt into the passage, Vare close behind. The tunnel shook as alarms blared across the ship, red lights bathing the corridors. "Prisoner escaped, Sector 4. Alert all units," the speakers roared. Daniel's breath came fast, but he kept moving, each step fueled by fire inside him. Vare guided him through twisting corridors, every corner a risk, every shadow a trap. At one turn, soldiers blocked their path, blasters raised. Daniel stepped forward, hands trembling with energy. The resonance surged again, forming a pulse that exploded outward, throwing the soldiers back like leaves in a storm. Vare stared in awe, both terrified and amazed. "You don't even understand what you're doing," he whispered. Daniel looked at his hands, the glow fading. "Then teach me before it kills us both." They pushed deeper into the labyrinth of the ship, alarms chasing them, soldiers closing in from every side. Vare knew escape was almost impossible, but still he pressed on. He had chosen betrayal, chosen humanity, and now there was no turning back. Daniel, once just a prisoner, now ran with the fire of something greater inside him. And as the walls shook with the hunt, one truth became clear. This was no longer about survival alone, it was about destiny. The alarm screamed across the alien ship, red lights flashing like warning beacons in the dark. Daniel and Dr. Vare ran through narrow service tunnels, their footsteps echoing against metal walls. Behind them, soldiers shouted, weapons crackling as they gave chase. Every corridor seemed to close in, every door a trap waiting to spring. Daniel's body burned with energy he could not understand. Each time he stumbled, the fire inside pushed him back up, refusing to let him fall. His wounds closed faster than they opened, his breath steadier than before. It frightened him, yet it also filled him with strength he had never known. He glanced at Vare, the alien's face tight with urgency. "You know what's happening to me?" Daniel demanded as they turned another corner. Vare hesitated, his black eyes flicking toward the approaching shadows. "I know more than I should, and if you live, you deserve to hear the truth." They burst into a hidden chamber, a forgotten archive sealed long ago. Dust clung to ancient consoles, screens flickered weakly. Vare sealed the door behind them, though it would not hold for long. Daniel leaned against a wall, his fists trembling with faint light. "Tell me now," he growled. "I'm done being kept in the dark." Vare's hands hovered over the consoles, pulling up files buried deep within the ship's memory. Symbols and recordings filled the air, voices from centuries past echoing in alien tongues. "This," Vare whispered, "is what my people swore never to reveal." The projection showed images of humans, bound like Daniel, glowing with the same energy. Some healed from mortal wounds, others unleashed bursts of force that shattered weapons and walls. Each one was erased, their existence hidden, their names never spoken. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. "They knew about us," he said, voice low. "They feared you," Vare corrected, his tone heavy. "Long before your people reached the stars, long before you understood yourselves, the Council discovered what lived inside you, a resonance unlike any other life form, a power to adapt, to survive, to evolve beyond control." The recordings continued, showing alien councils arguing. Some demanded extermination, others argued for control. In the end, fear won, and humanity was shackled to ignorance. Every attempt to rise was crushed before it began. "You were never weak," Vare said bitterly, You were kept weak. Daniel's fists clenched, anger surging. All this time, my people thought we were fighting to survive on our own. But your kind, kept us caged. Vare bowed his head, guilt written across his alien features. I was raised to believe it was necessary, that if your spark spread, it would consume us all. But now, seeing you, I wonder if we were protecting ourselves or only our power. The door behind them shook, soldiers hammering against it. Daniel stepped forward, the fire in his chest rising. "So what happens if they catch me?" he asked, his voice steady. Vare met his gaze. "They will cut you open, erase every trace, and bury the truth again." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Then we don't let them." The door cracked, sparks flying, the enemy seconds away. Daniel turned to Vare, his eyes burning with determination. "You said this power needs control. Then show me how now." Vare's voice dropped, urgent and sharp. "Focus on the rhythm you feel inside. Do not fight it. Let it flow. Guide it, shape it. Your body will obey." The door shattered. Soldiers stormed in with weapons raised. Daniel closed his eyes, drawing on the rhythm, the fire, the storm within. When the first shot was fired, his body moved before thought. The energy burst outward, a wave of invisible force throwing the attackers back into the corridor, weapons clattering across the floor. The chamber shook, dust falling from the ceiling, lights flickering. Daniel opened his eyes, his hands glowing faintly. For the first time, he had called the power instead of fearing it. The soldiers groaned on the floor, stunned but alive. Vare stared at him with awe and dread. "You are the proof," he whispered. "The prophecy was true. Humanity is the storm they feared." Daniel's chest heaved, but his voice was firm. "Then maybe it's time they stop fearing us and start answering to us." The words hung in the air, heavy with promise and defiance. Beyond the shattered door, more soldiers gathered, more enemies closing in. But Daniel no longer felt like prey. He felt like the beginning of something the galaxy had tried to bury for centuries. And now, buried truth had risen again. The corridor outside roared with footsteps, the pounding of armored boots drawing closer. Daniel stood tall in the wrecked archive, his fists glowing faintly, his breath steady. For the first time since his capture, he no longer felt like a prisoner. He felt like a weapon forged in silence, now awakened. Dr. Vare moved to his side, his voice urgent. "They will not stop, Daniel. They will send waves until you fall, and if they capture you, the truth dies with you." Daniel's eyes narrowed, determination burning in them. "Then we make sure the truth escapes this ship, no matter what happens to me." The doors shattered again, more soldiers flooding in, weapons humming with deadly light. Daniel raised his hands, the rhythm inside pulsing with every heartbeat. He focused, remembering Vare's words, "Let it flow, guide it, do not fight it." The energy burst outward in a wave, knocking soldiers to the ground, their weapons sparking uselessly. The air shimmered with force, and for a moment, the entire ship seemed to groan under the pressure. But the attacks did not stop. The commanders themselves appeared, towering figures wrapped in dark armor, their voices cold and sharp. "This human is forbidden. Destroy him," one commanded. Daniel clenched his jaw, stepping forward. "You've been afraid of us for centuries. Maybe it's time you learn why." They charged, their weapons cutting through the air. Daniel met them head-on, the energy around him flaring brighter. Every strike they delivered, he absorbed. Every wound, his body adapted faster. When one blade cut across his arm, the skin sealed in seconds, glowing faintly before returning to flesh. The commanders faltered, their confidence shaken. Vare watched, torn between fear and awe. The legends he had studied were alive before his eyes. This was the storm, the spark, the reason the council had silenced the truth. Humanity was not fragile. It was unstoppable once awakened. Daniel slammed his fist into the floor, sending a shockwave through the chamber. Aliens were thrown back, walls cracked, lights shattered. He stood in the center of chaos, his chest heaving, his eyes glowing with fire. And in that moment, the ship itself seemed to bow to him. The soldiers hesitated, fear creeping into their alien eyes. They had faced countless wars, countless enemies, but never one who refused a break. Vare stepped forward, his voice rising above the noise. "Do you not see it? This is what we feared, but fear cannot chain it forever. Humanity will rise whether you wish it or not." Daniel turned to him, his voice steady. "If I survive, they'll come for me again, and for others like me." Vare nodded slowly. "Then let them come, because now the galaxy knows you exist." The ship trembled as alarms shifted, a new warning blaring across the halls. "Containment breach, reactor unstable." The speakers roared. The energy Daniel had unleashed was tearing through systems, the vessel no longer stable. Smoke filled the corridors, lights dimmed, chaos spreading like wildfire. Daniel looked at Vare, his jaw set. "We have to get out before this ship becomes our grave." Together they ran, dodging debris and fallen beams. The crew scattered in panic, no longer hunters but prey, fleeing their own ship. Everywhere they turned, fear spread faster than command. At last they reached the hangar, ships lined up for escape. Guards tried to stop them, but Daniel raised his hands once more. The energy surged, knocking the attackers aside without killing them. He climbed into a small craft with Vare at his side, engines roaring to life. As they lifted off, the massive vessel behind them groaned, explosions tearing through its hull. From the viewport, Daniel watched the alien flagship crumble into fire. It spun in silence, swallowed by the void. For a long moment, he said nothing, his chest still glowing faintly with the rhythm of power. Finally, he whispered, "This isn't just about me, is it?" Vare shook his head, his voice heavy with truth. "No, Daniel, if one human can awaken, then others can too." This was only the beginning. Daniel's gaze hardened, staring into the endless stars ahead. The galaxy had feared humanity for centuries, had silenced them, chained them. But now the secret was out, and with it came a promise that could never be buried again. Humanity's new dawn had begun.